Good evening. Good evening to you, future millionaires out there listening to the show today. I'm bringing you someone today that will teach you a few things that you probably need to know going into 2024 and the rest of your future. We're going to speak today about being focused. And this word that we all know so well, it is stuckness. The word of the day is stuckness. So we have with us today Coach Anna. Coach Anna Lane. Look her up on LinkedIn. You can look her up on YouTube. But today she's going to be with us today to talk with us about focusing, stuckness, how we get stuck, why we stay stuck, and how we get unstuck again. Welcome to the show today, Coach Anna.
Rashad, it is such a delight to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome. We're looking forward to having you. I really was excited when I seen that you were someone that's going to be on the show and be able to talk to us about focus, because I know a lot of us lack it and don't know what to do about it. It happens, right?
Yeah.
You get stuck, and that just is what it is. And man, if there was a coach ever that was needed, it's a coach to show people how to get unstuck. So if you can just take us back, I would like to go back to the just beginning of where you knew that this was something that was needed.
Ooh, well, I knew for myself it was something that I needed when I wound up homeless, living out of a warehouse illegally. And I was like, yeah, I marked myself here. I knew I had marked myself there, but I didn't know how. I knew I had been an architect of my life. I knew that I had chosen all of these steps, and yet somehow there was this disconnect between all of those choices I made and who I was as a person, because who I was as a person was not the person who was living illegally out of a warehouse. It wasn't the person who was struggling to make her business work. It wasn't the person who was in the middle of a marriage that was falling apart. That wasn't me. I was so much more than all of those tiny decisions. And I think that's the thing with being stuck, right? It's not the big event that actually gets you there. It's a million small choices that happen over decades until one day, like me, maybe hopefully not quite so extreme, but you wake up and you're like, I don't know who's looking back at me in the mirror. I don't know whose life I'm living, and I don't know why I'm living like this. And that's kind of where it was that the process started. And I started to get that clarity that, oh, wow, I got to figure this stuff out, right? And then, of course, when you figure that stuff out and you start sharing it.
You mentioned being the architect of your life. Oh man, I think a lot of people miss that. Um, just the fact that we're in control and we are the ones, we are the builders.
Yeah.
So before you start sharing it with others, if to dig a little deeper into your story, before you start sharing it with others, what did you do to begin to put the pieces back together?
Well, ironically, it was even in that state, I don't think I fully understood that I was still architecting the same problems and reliving and living the patterns that had got me there in the first place. And the ironic part of it, maybe not ironic, but the thing that got me out of it was a simple phone call. It was a phone call from my brother. It was 2 days before Christmas. And he phoned me up, and nobody knew, by the way, about this situation I was in. I would get up at 4 in the morning. I would go back to the old house. I would be there when the kids woke up. They didn't know. Make sure they got to school, would leave, go back, do my work, go back again, make sure they were off the bus, stay there till they fell asleep. Like nobody knew. My parents didn't know. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. I was too afraid to tell anyone. You see these patterns, afraid to be seen, afraid to tell anyone, afraid for people not to see that you're perfect, afraid for people to see that you're a mess. I was living that. Anyways, my brother calls me and he says, I'm so excited to be spending Christmas with you. What? Come again? And I first thought is, how does he know? But figured out pretty darn fast he didn't. And here's another pattern that I discovered through this phone call. With my indecision about my life, you talk about being the architect of your life. With me always looking at how the world wasn't working for me or how the world was happening to me, it meant that I was never giving directions. I was never sailing my own boat. And so even my ex, who knew that I was leaving, I told him I was leaving, he didn't know I was gone because I was never really clear. I thought I was clear. No, I wasn't clear. So he had invited my family over for Christmas. Was he a bad person? No. I wasn't clear. I wasn't standing up. I wasn't saying, hey, no, that's not the situation. That's not what's happening. I wasn't letting people see. So there was always hope, right? Anyways, my brother's call was a wake-up call. He woke me up to these patterns, deferring discomfort in the name of peace, not showing up as who I am, but as the person I thought would make everybody else comfortable, right? So what did I do? Well, I got to sit in that mess. I got to sit through the most uncomfortable Christmas ever in the history of Christmases. And then I got to stand up afterwards and say, guess what, everyone? Mom, Dad, your daughter's falling apart. Her marriage is disintegrating. This is what's happening. Got to tell my kids. That's not a great conversation either. Oh, by the way, this was showing up in my businesses. I would bend over backwards to build, I've had 8 businesses. I would bend over backwards to build businesses I didn't even want, that were better suited for someone else because I was pretending when I was building them. And I would attract customers, didn't want me, I didn't want them, because how could we want each other? I wasn't being authentic when I was doing what I was doing, right? These are the same patterns. So I got to disassemble my business. I got to disassemble my life. I got to get really clear about being not perfect, quite obviously, right? Look at me, look what I built, not working, ta-da. And then I started that long, slow trek of 10 years. Well, it's more than that because that was 2011. So where are we now? 2024, 13 years, marching back into my own life. And yeah, what did I do? Courses, books, anything I could get my hands on. I started learning stuff. And then I figured out that I was spinning my tires. See, this isn't a glorious fast swoop. I tried to jump the cavern and I fell in. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to change everything and it's going to work out. And in a year, I'm going to be better at my own life. And no, that's not how it worked. Because what happened was there was this foundation. If you ever find that you're doing the right things, you're taking the courses, you're reading the books, you're getting the mentors, and you are not getting results, I promise you it's not because you're dumb, broken, stupid. If you don't have focus, it isn't because you don't want to focus. It isn't because you're unmotivated or lacking motivation or any of that stuff. It's likely because that foundation, there's gaps in it. And until you figure that stuff out, everything else falls in the gaps. You can spend, and I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on courses and programs that didn't work. And the second I started dialing in the foundation, I suddenly started getting traction. And it was magnificent. And that's where we are right now. We're in the traction zone, which is really nice. I gotta say, it feels much better.
It feels good, right?
Well, it feels you know what? I want to say it feels really great. It does feel really great, but it's a different feeling. It's a humble feeling. That's what it is. It's a humble feeling because it's the knowledge that I still have so much further to go. Now I see just how far it is.
Right. It's almost like falling in a hole and crawling back out of it and then saying, okay, now where do I go?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of course all those old habits. Have you ever had where you're like, I'm gonna do this thing, and you go to do that thing, and then all of the outside influences that are really uncomfortable come at you, and doing that thing suddenly, and it's so glamorous and so easy. It's kind of like, I would akin it to taking a diet. It's really easy when there's no dessert in front of you, and you're not at a restaurant with all your friends, or it's not a family holiday or a birthday, or those are the days it's easier, or you're not feeling bad or depressed, right? The challenge comes in when life's around you. And that part I didn't expect. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'm gonna learn this stuff and it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's literally almost like a test is given, and it's a test that you have to pass. It's um
It's like a muscle.
yeah,
It's like I have this muscle that I've been working for 30 years of disempowerment, and it's up against a muscle that's been working for 10 years.
yeah.
One of them's a lot stronger.
Mhm.
And it's got a lot, it's really wily, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I like Christmas stories because I have one, and um it's a literal stuckness story where I found myself in a position the one time that I really had to crawl back. I was stuck in my truck on a railroad track because I had fell into a depression. At the time, I didn't know that that's what it was, but I was in a depression. I went out that night, and it's a Christmas story because this was on December 23rd. I had all of my kids' gifts in the back of my truck. But that day was a very depressing day for me. And I end up going to a club, drinking, drinking it all away, drinking alcohol, drinking it all away. I received a phone call from my next door neighbor who just happened to be my son's babysitter. And she said, I don't know if you noticed or not, but there's going to be a freeze tonight. You might want to get home. So I took off from there, from the club that I've been drinking at, and went home. I thought I was going home. What happened to be a shortcut that I thought I was taking, that I've taken for the last 15 years, was no longer there. They barricaded it off and made another route. So, me not knowing, I ran right into the barricade, jumped the barricade, and landed on the railroad tracks and was stuck on the railroad tracks. Being stuck on the railroad tracks, I said, you know what? Um, it doesn't matter anyway. I'll just stay here until morning. I'll get some sleep right now on the railroad track. So around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I had a friend just out and about for some reason come knock on my door in the field on the railroad track and ask me, what are you doing? So I told him I was just waiting for a ride. It wasn't a lot to it. He leaves, the cops show up and tell me, if you don't get this truck off the railroad track, there's a train due here in another hour. So you need to find a way off of this railroad track. So even with that being said, I still was in a state or in a zone of stuckness, not just the truck, but also myself, because I didn't move. I didn't feel like moving. I'm here with my truck. We're just both stuck. And just so happened, the police was done with me for the night. I went back to my truck, got in my truck, and was going to continue to sleep. My friend came back from wherever he was at later on and knocked on my window again. I finally got a ride with him, and got a tow truck to get my truck from being unstuck. But that was an area in my life that I can totally say that I was stuck and I had to crawl back from that. I look back on that. I look back on it to this day. I look back on it every Christmas. And that has been my turning point in my life to where I realized that I needed help. I needed assistance. And there was a depression that I didn't even know about. So that's how I know that you have a program that people need.
Absolutely. And you know what? You know what's so powerful? Before we talk about programs, let's just talk about your story for a second. What's so powerful about that story, Rashad, is this is how it happens, right? When people knock on your window, that is such a metaphor because that's what happened to me. There were more than, I don't even know how many times. I bet dozens of times people knocked on my metaphorical window and said, hey, you know, you're going down this path. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, no, I'm going to sleep in my truck on this very dangerous railroad track. I'm going to self-destruct my life. And that it kept knocking.
Yeah.
Like people who say there's nothing out there, I beg to differ. I beg to differ
Oh, I
because
know. Oh, I know. I know. I know. Like it's like that night. I just can't. I can't fathom. Like this dude just happened to be out in the middle of the night. Look over, see me, come knock on the door. Like you say, just a proverbial. It's time to wake up. You know, and it's wake up in his truck as well as wake up in your life. So yeah, that is a
amen. That's how it works. So is so often there was a time I tried to kill myself. I was unsuccessful. And then I remember waking up thinking, you know, I can't even get this right.
right.
Right. I can't even get this right. And I remember those moments when you're so just done that even the thought of getting out of bed, even the thought of putting on your clothes, it just feels impossible, right? And how many people are there and they're not seeing the knocks on the window because their whole body is in such breakdown they can't hear it. They can't see the knocks. They can't hear that message. So it's just so important what you're doing here on this show, courses like mine, people who reach out into this space. I'm just so grateful for them because I wouldn't be here without them, for sure.
Definitely. Definitely. And with that, let's segue into the part of your program that is community based membership.
Ooh, yes.
So
Yes.
let's talk about that. Is that so you have that aspect of it for that reason so people can be amongst others, or can you explain?
Well, neuroscientifically, so basically your brain is programmed to keep you safe. And I will bring this to community in a second. It is your core program. It is a root program, is to survive, right? Every cell in your body is programmed to survive before anything else. And they are programmed, and you are programmed, and all organisms are programmed to move towards the things that'll help them live and away from the things that'll help them die. That's our base programming as organisms, all right? If it wasn't, there would be no Earth. There would be nothing living here. And it does this, your body does it in 3 ways. It has evolved to really learn to survive. And one of the 3 ways is tribe, is community, is people. It is so much a part of our evolution that our bodies have neurotransmitters, hormones, chemicals basically, or well, they're not chemicals, they're neurotransmitters, but it releases into your stream oxytocin, which makes you feel good. It makes you feel loving, and those warm feelings you get around people, it basically is drugging you into wanting to be around humans. That's how important that is for us. And so when I'm looking at my programs, I know that one of the things that holds people hostage is they are deciding between a life that is fulfilling and leaving the tribe or the known or the community. And you know what they sacrifice? This one, right? They sacrifice their purpose. They sacrifice their personality. They sacrifice most of who they are in lieu of the safety of their community, of their surroundings, of having that security. That's what we're programmed to do. And so I know if I want to reach the people who are desperately, desperately lost and away from who they are, I must give them some kind of landing pad, some kind of community. And that's what we've created. We have this little community and it's wonderful. And the people in there are moving through the mess, man. We're moving through the mess. And the tenet of the program isn't that we bond over what's behind us. It's that we bond over what's possible for our futures.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we can raise up and hopefully not feel so darn alone when we're doing it.
Yeah. We're oh, we're definitely in a time to where it's so much individualism being preached and taught and social media, and I can do it all by myself. And then so alone because we're not going into the offices anymore after COVID, and there's no tribe to be a part of. When at the end of the day, what we really need is each other.
Yes. We need that sense that, you know what it is? It's this feeling that I'm not alone. Now, I don't promote bonding over or gluing ourselves to what holds us down, because then if we rise, we have to leave our tribe again, right? But let's bond over the fact that we are continuously moving forward. Let's bond over our power. Let's bond over what's possible. Let's bond over the fact that I saw what I did the other day that screwed me up. That's beautiful. I can change what I can see, right? I love that. Yes, let's create these communities and let's de-isolate ourselves. People I find that call themselves introverts, I don't know that they're always introverts. I think what happens is introversion in some contexts is the result of how difficult it is to be around people. How difficult, in other words, the more I feel I have to change who I am to fit into this space, the less I want to be in this space.
Yeah.
Less about introversion and more about my ability to be authentic.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I've never heard it put like that. Okay. Okay. All right. So the rut relief roadmap. Can you tell us about that?
The rut relief roadmap. So I talked to you really briefly about your root system. So that's survival. The rut relief roadmap looks at how that system, there's three ways that it comes at you through tribe and tagging and staying in the known. It looks at those things, and then it shows you the 9 safety systems that appear and how that looks in your life. So things like self-sabotage, what your back doors are, how you keep information from coming in, right? So that new information won't disrupt you. It looks at your blind spots and it shows you what it looks like, how it shows up in your life, why it keeps you stuck, how it's ruining your relationships in many cases. And then it offers really just practical, this is how we move through it. That's the roadmap. If you take this roadmap and you just go through it, even the awareness is going to change your life, because you can't not once you know the stuff. And I make it simple. This stuff is all psychology. This stuff, there's nothing in this roadmap that somebody with a PhD hasn't thought of. They just haven't said it like this.
Right. You're keeping it, where people can understand. It doesn't have to be so complicated. It's just, yeah, I got it.
No, you do not need to have a PhD to understand that your brain is not your enemy and that the
Yeah.
voice inside you actually isn't bad. And if you have negative self-talk, it means your body's working. Isn't that radical?
So, question about that.
Yeah.
Question about that, because here we are getting
Yeah.
into manifestation, meditation. So, the law of attraction.
Yep.
So all of this. So I have guests that's been on here, and they speak about the law of attraction. They speak about manifestation. So here's my question, because this right here is the fork in the road.
Ooh, I like this.
The people want to know, how can you manifest if you have negative self-talk? How can you always picture your best life, but then yourself is kind of like is negative self-talk is prohibiting you from having those thoughts that you're supposed to be having to attract or to manifest.
Ah, how much time do we have here? Because I want to rant really bad right now.
We have another 15 minutes, so let's go.
Okay, let's do this. All right. Are you willing to go on an adventure with me for a second?
Yeah, let's go.
And let's go somewhere, and let's go somewhere that people aren't talking about. And I have a very big issue with the negative self-talk folk out there, because let's first draw a picture of what it looks like for most people. It's some sort of either authority figure or big bad mean thing, and it's in you, and it's like it's out to get you. It wants to tell you how you are and how crap you are and how you're going to screw up. And maybe it's your uncle, maybe it's a school teacher, maybe it's an older version of you. It's like adult you reminding you how crappy you are. Okay, cool. Here's what it actually is. You want to know what it actually is? I'll tell you what it actually is. Let's go back to a place in time when you were super young, really young, like so young that you did not have the resources, you didn't have the agency, you didn't have the knowledge to change the circumstances you were in. You were where you were 100% dependent on that environment for your needs to be met. Okay? Now, humans are incredibly smart. Kids are so smart, so much smarter than we give them credit for. That's another talk. But you're a kid. What do? You adapt. You figure out the rules of your environment that enable you to get your needs met. And that looks different for every kid. Now, that is so important to your body that part of you never forgets those rules. That kid lives inside you. That kid lives inside you right now. Whenever you step outside of those rules, what happens to that kid? What do you think happens?
Is that where the introvert or the uncomfortable part comes in?
It's just imagine this, there's an inner part of you, an inner child that learned rules when it was young. And if it stepped outside of those rules, its dad beat it, got kicked
Oh
out of the
yeah,
house, had to go.
punishment.
No. So when that kid thinks now, as you're an adult, but that part of you still there, you step outside of that rule set that this little kid has, it's gonna freak out. You're so dumb. Don't do that. Why the heck are you doing? Ah! That's where your inner critic comes from. It has nothing to do with a bully. It's a scared kid that wants to protect you because that's what your body's programmed for. And it doesn't know any better. Now, what happens when you scream at a toddler or when you tell a toddler, you don't have any jurisdiction here, go away, you suck, stop talking? What happens to the kid? Do they get quieter?
Yeah,
They
they
get
don't want to do
quieter?
it anymore.
That is a beaten child. Most children that I know, if you tell them to stop, they will push your buttons. They will maybe stop right then, but then they'll find a way to come back and push your buttons later. They will act out, act up, act bad. They will get your attention
Yeah.
because it's important to them that they do. And that is your negative inner critic. And to stop your inner critic is really, really easy. You get in a relationship with it. Oh, I'm terrified of public speaking. Okay. Which, by the way, to give you some perspective, in 2018, I couldn't introduce myself in a room without like losing my voice, cracking, getting so embarrassed, I turned off my camera and left. That's 2018. Okay. Now let's look at it. Your inner critic comes up. Oh, you blah, blah, don't do it. And you're like, okay, I hear you. What are we worried about? Chances are it's going to be rejection of the tribe, looking dumb, failing, proving to the world that you're not as competent, something to do with separating you from your needs. That will be the fear. And once you're in relationship with that, you can talk to that part of you and you'd be like, okay, what step can we take right now? What's something small we can do together right now? You want to know how fast you can get in relationship with negative self-talk and how fast you can diminish it? Keep doing those steps. And I promise you, it's going to change your life.
That's getting into a relationship. You're talking to yourself as your positive self and speaking with your negative self.
Well, it's not even a negative part of you. I want you to take it out of your head, Rashad. Take that part of you out of your head, put it here, and imagine it is a little you, a little scared you. Give it the compassion you would give yourself as a child, that you'd give any scared child that was lost in a mall. You'd be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a terrifying experience for you. Yeah, getting up in front of a crowd of people when you used to be told to shut up because you're dumb. I can see how that would terrify a kid.
Right.
That's part of you. Like, we got to stop beating that part up and telling it to shut up, because it's not going to shut up. It's just going to get worse. It's not going to learn. When we talk to it, we teach it. We do this thing. This part of us does this thing where it builds evidence. So it has evidence that all of the things it thinks are true. And it's like, oh, see, you screwed up there, so this is true. People are bad. Oh, see, look at what that person did. People are bad. People are going to hurt you. But when you talk to this part of you and you move with it, you start to build new evidence, new stories, new proof that what it's scared of isn't so scary.
Right.
Is this making sense?
Boogeyman doesn't exist. The boogeyman doesn't exist. Like it's all a fabrication. Yeah, it's making sense. It's making sense to me. It's making sense to me because I know how I was raised. And I can literally tell you, if I'm doing something, I can damn near hear my father's voice. You know what I mean? Like from when I was a kid. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So next time, and I would love, Rashad, next time you hear that voice, imagine, pluck the kid out of your head, put it on the chair next to you, and have a conversation with it and see what happens. Just see what happens. Because you're gonna learn so much about yourself. And by the way, when there's a tipping point, and this is fun, there's a tipping point when the voice stops being mad at you all the time and it starts getting curious. And then really fun stuff can happen, because now your inner child's kind of coming out to play. And that's a whole other talk.
Yeah. See? And hey, it's only $7.
Yeah.
It's only $7 to meet with Coach Anna.
That's true. $7 a month. And it comes with the Radiant You program, which is like, it's an 8-module course, but I go through one module every week. So every 8 weeks, we start at the beginning and we go through it again, and we learn a little bit of something new about each module, and we add a little exercise. And so every week you get live training. So if you don't have time, most people I know don't have time to do courses. They want to, they buy them, and they never do them. My people do them.
Okay, you found a way for your people to get them taken care of.
Right? We're here. This is what community is. If we got to train it live, and there are some people who like to do it on their own, but I mean, it teaches you what my group does is it's working with the 6 keys, I call them. And these are the things that if you take these concepts on, it transforms your ability not only to work with your survival system, your inner critic, all of those things that I talked about that come up out of your root, like your self-sabotage, but they also actually impact your relationships. They impact your fear. They impact your ability to enjoy things and be grateful. It's a ripple effect. And I just call them the 6 keys. And they're just super easy concepts that we practice embodying every week. We pick one and we work on it that week. And then the next week we work on the next one. And then every 8 weeks we start again.
That's so cool. That is so cool. So your program is 8 weeks, but can you be Your program is 8 weeks, but that's just for if someone wants an 8 week, or is it the entire year?
Oh, sorry for confusing you. The membership is every month. So I have members that are in there every month, and the membership, you have this every week training if you want to come to it. And we talk about all kinds of things. We do talk about things outside of the Radiant You course, but that's included in the membership. And then my members also have access to any other programs that I choose to write and run. They get VIP upgrades. They get to see all my work before it goes public. There's all kinds of bonuses that these guys get. It's a cup of coffee. But yeah, if you want to get in any of the other courses, I have the Rut Relief Roadmap. I have a negative self-talk decoder. I have a Build a Better Year program, which shows you how to build the foundations so your years will stop falling apart, because you'll stop making goals that don't have anything to do with what you care about, which a lot of people do, and they don't even realize it. Yeah, I got lots of programs. You want programs? I got programs.
Just like that. Just like that. Coach Anna has programs.
So many programs. But honestly, I say Radiant You. Come on, get into the Permission to Shift Hub. Meet the people. The cup of coffee a month it'll pay for itself many times over. I promise that. Or I'll give you your $7 back. I will happily give you back your $7. You don't get $7 of value. I will give you your $7 back.
There you go. Yes. Love it. This includes live weekly coaching, free access to programs and tools before they go public, free workshops and training, free access to the Radiant You self-study course, free access to the private online community, and Ask Anna. Get answers and support in the exclusive community chat.
Yeah.
For $7, I mean, you can't beat that.
No.
Yes.
I'll see you there.
This is great. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to spend $7 and spend.
Woo!
Is this just for women, or can men
Nope,
join?
I have a lot of men. I have a CEO in the program. I have a MBA engineer in the program. I have another gentleman in the program who is actually just got engaged on New Year's Eve to another girl who's also in my program. It's not a cult.
I'm glad.
It's online, so we're not.
I'm glad you made that. I'm glad you made that distinction. It's not a $7 cult. Cults are free. I want to say for the most part, I believe they're free.
You got me, man. You got me.
Oh man. Well, Coach Anna, where can people find you? Where, if they're looking, where can they find your information?
They can find me at www.annalang.ca, because I am a Canadian girl, so .ca. They can find me, as you said, on LinkedIn. Again, I'm Anna Lang. They can find me on Facebook. I am Anna Lang 76, or you can look for Permission to Shift. Permission to Shift is what I call most of my programs. That's the umbrella that holds my programs, because that really key is you give yourself permission to shift, and the rest of it we can work on together.
Boom. What an awesome interview this was. I enjoyed myself on this one. Really, I did.
Oh, I enjoy myself too. You are an excellent host. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I am going to be, I know I am. There's just people that I, like to circle back around to, and, maybe get another interview later on down the line.
Yeah, I am down. You just let me know when.
Okay. Thank you for your time today. Much success to everything else that you do from this point on out.
Oh, thank you so much, Rashad. Oh, can I give your audience something free?
Definitely, for sure.
Oh, sweet. I have a negative self-talk toolkit, which we were just talking about our inner critic. And beyond working with your inner critic, a lot of times there's a lot of energy that gets pent up in us when our inner critic's on our case all the time, and moving that energy is really important, because otherwise it just crushes us. It can really weigh us down. And so what the negative self-talk toolkit is it's 4 resources that support you to move that sort of negative energy and start getting it out of your system. There's a self-talk tracker. There's a 5-step process for working with your inner critic. There's a releasing negative self-talk, like energy meditation, and there's a journal. And I'm going to give that to your people for free.
Awesome. Look at that. Millionaire by Morning listeners. If it's free, it's me. So we want to thank you, Coach Anna. We really appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
Have a great night. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.